to Good evening and welcome to another edition of African Americans Ain't Africans, the think show that proves without a shadow of a doubt that the so-called African American didn't find his way to America in the trunk of a ship. I'm your host, the Indigenous One. Tonight, we're going to share with you something that every single last one of us could do. And we're going to have a young lady who is sharing with us tonight join us, just to show you how simple looking for your ancestors can be. We're going to look at some old documents that the language that was used back then isn't used today. And so you're going to have to know that and know the changes that have been on in these different places in the world, the names of the places that have been changed, the names of the people that have been changed. We're going to show you all this. And I want you to pay attention to it because it's a lot of stuff you can find pertaining to your family and to yourself that normally we would have just skipped over. So joining me tonight is Ms. Doreen Rogers. Doreen, how are you doing?
I'm good, Carrie. Thank you for having me.
No, thank you for joining us and thank you for sharing this. I think this will be able to help a whole bunch of people.
I hope so. Halito family.
So let's get started with this. Tell us what got you into looking up, for your family and stuff.
Well, to be quite honest, it's when I became a member of African Americans Ain't African. I had started hearing a few other people, a few other presentations, but for some reason, when I heard you speak, and I used to listen to you when I was going to work too. You were so sincere and relentless, and I said, And then I started to think about my own family. All they ever talked about was the South, Louisiana, Mississippi, the cotton, the fields, the snakes, and all that kind of stuff. But I never heard them talk about any other place, and then so it just kind of hit home. Now, why would I be thinking that I was from someplace else? Because I never, ever heard about any other continent or place growing up. Honestly, I didn't. And another thing is that I always felt not really comfortable with the misnomers that we were supposed to be wearing and being. I try to, go along, but inside I knew that, something wasn't right, so there began my search.
Well, cool. Well, it looks like, so what we're going to share with you tonight, what Ms. Rogers has done, she's starting on her father's side of the family. And which is interesting because her father's still with us and he's able to give her little tidbits and little guideposts to what's really going on. Would you say that's the case, Ms. Rogers?
It sure is. It sure is. And now it's even more enjoyable to listen to him because he's one of the people that he would dive and catch fish with his hands. And his brothers verified it because they said that they used to get scared because he'd go down and they think he was down there kind of long. And, he would come up and he would actually dive into the water and catch fish with his hands. He was born in Jamestown, Louisiana.
So with that piece of, I remember you telling me that because I was Doreen and I was talking a little while ago. And she was saying, well, how would I know if my people are indigenous people? I'm like, well, ask your dad what he did when he was a kid. What did they do for fun when they were kids? Because they didn't have Xboxes. Shit, they didn't even have a TV. So what did they do for fun? And when she told them that they caught fish with their hands, I was like, well, who does that sound like?
Yeah. And as a matter of fact, they were all, even the women fished. They all fished.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So it's little stories like this that'll help everybody trying to find their family. Now, the cool part about Doreen, what she did is she went fishing online for some information. And now she's going to tell us what she's found.
Okay. Well, what I found is, I started out with my maternal side, my mom's side, and, I hit some blocks, and that's to be expected. And so when that happens, I just go to my other side. And I had I didn't really abandon, but I hadn't, my dad's mom, she passed away at such an early age. She was like in her 20s. My dad, I'm glad he at least mentioned her name, and, but he didn't have a lot to tell about the family because his dad remarried shortly after my biological grandmother passed. So it was just kind of history untouched. And through the years, I'd wonder, I said, well, and I'd think about, the last name that, her maiden name. And I'd said, well, I'm sure we probably have, family somewhere, because from what my dad told me, after his mother's passing, he stayed with his grandmother as long as he could. And she had a whole lot of children. So one day she had took him and his oldest brother and dropped him, on the road toward his dad's house, and say, your dad lives up there. And that seemed really sad to me, very sad. So, but getting back to what I was saying, by my grandmother leaving so early and I'm not finding a whole lot about her, something inside me would just say, well, just go look again. So I'd go and I'd look, and I had a couple of sites that I was working with. One is another paid site that I think I'm going to get again, but I don't have right now. So I was just using what I have, and that's the familysearch.org. And I use also archives.com. And so I obeyed what my inner guide told me. I went and I looked, and for some reason I noticed a link where her mother and father were listed. And so I clicked on where where it gave her father's name. Then all of a sudden, there was it was an Indian, even with headdress. Okay. And so I looked, and then I went out, and then I went back again, to my grandmother. And so every time that I would click on it, I would click, and I started going back and forth. I would click on him and she would be there. I'd click on her and he would be there. And I said, okay, all right. And I said, well, this is great, So another thing that I started noticing is that they said in 1910, he was Indian. Okay. And I tried to, go into the, past then. And by the time it was 1940, he was Negro and Black. And so that just goes to show me that they've been working overtime, just trying to hide and destroy who we really are. And another important thing for me to remember is that it was a long time before I found really anything as far as anything tribal or anything like that. So it's really important that we know who we are, whether regardless to records or what someone tells us or anything. We just have to know within our heart and in our spirit who we are and our connection to this land.
Well, cool. Well, what you did, I mean, what you found out, I think is very telling, not just about then, but about now.
Hmm.
And you can see when you go through the years, like you were saying in 1940, he was labeled something else.
Right.
But how we're disconnected from our people, not just our people, but how also we're disconnected from the land.
That's it.
So I want to go through these documents and share them with the audience about the things you found. And the audience, I want you to just pay close attention because she's going to show you where her people are. But also, I want you to look at, the categories that they're put in and what is said about these people and where all these people are coming from. And see if this doesn't seem strange to you. So, Doreen, what are we looking at now?
Well, right now you're looking at a record of my grandmother. She was born in 1915, Louisiana, and she was born in Gibbsland, Bineville, Louisiana. And it's usually pretty easy to, even though there might not be a lot of records, I don't see a lot of people born in Gibbsland. So that's where she was born. And in this record right here is where there's there's something where they say view the record or see the person's life. And so when I clicked there, and then I went down and it shows their family, and they had a live link where her parents were listed. And then I clicked on her father and I found him, and I found her mother. I seem to find more information on her, my great granddad, than I do on the mother. But this is just scratching the surface, and this is just one branch. So there's a whole lot of work to do.
Okay, so I see in 1930, when she was age 15, she was living in Police Jury Ward 2.
Mm-hmm.
What exactly does that mean, if you know?
I don't. And I find that in a lot of the records of my people. Why does it always have to have something to do with the police? That's but I'm so busy looking and searching at other stuff, I've never really delved into that. But that's definitely a good thing to look at too, though.
So you wanna take a stab at it, because I can tell you what I think it means, and it makes perfectly good sense.
Okay, let me see. Police Jury Ward 2.
So let's put it in today's terms. You see how all these people are trying to immigrate into the United States?
Yes.
That sounds like what that was. And they were surrounded. They were like in a place where they were surrounded. Police was looking over them. That's what it sounds like to me.
Could very well be.
Yeah, I mean, so you might, because I've seen that, like you said, a few times.
Mm-hmm.
Searching through the records in Alabama, Mississippi,
Mm-hmm.
they all have that where she lived.
Right.
Jury ward. Why would a 15-year-old girl be living there?
Exactly.
So these are just so here at the bottom, you have this is your great grandfather,
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay, and your great grandmother.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So and is this what it's saying? They were born in 1888 and 1891?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Correct.
Okay, great. So this is the woman who was born in 1915, a little over 100 years ago, and it's letting you know a little bit about her. So you can say, well, wait, she was born in Louisiana. Okay, well, where in Africa is this woman from? She's not in Africa. And the way we're taught now, what a lot of our children will do, our children won't even look at these records. It was like Doreen was saying, she was taught that she was an African. So being taught that facilitated to erase all of this history, what you're seeing right in front of you, away. That's what it does. And so that's why I'm so adamant on people saying, we African, we African. What do you mean? And we just say it just like everything else we do. We don't think about it. We do what people tell us to do. And it leads us into the situation that we're in now. This is telling you all these people, there's no African nowhere. But wait until we get on later. This stuff is going to blow you away. Doreen, so what did your dad say? What did your dad say when you brought this to him?
Well, I recently, we haven't talked about it recently, but I know some months ago, because he's been kind of ill lately. He's dealing with quite a bit, but I just remember him just basically just talking about the things that were happening in the South, and talking about, and he even mentioned that his mother had land, and at one time they were getting mineral rights from it. And then, of course, in my mind, I said, well, what happened to all this? And he told me about one time when he was a child, he remembered foreigners coming through in Louisiana, walking. And as far as they could walk, they could put a stake there and claim the land and go back down to the land office and claim the land. And in my mind, I said, okay, well, they were stealing Indian land, because if my dad could stand there as a child and see it, that's what they were doing.
So would you have ever been able to figure that out had you not found these documents?
I doubt it. I really doubt it, because it's because there's always like, okay, this has been going on for so long, trying to keep us from our true selves. And it's easy to really feel alone. You know what I'm saying? Especially when the light comes and you begin to search and stuff, because even family a lot of times will, kind of brush you off, or like, oh, you're too serious about it, or whatever. Or I remember when it used to almost make me flinch when someone called me Black or African American, and family members would think I'm just taking things too serious. And I realized that they weren't taking things serious enough, because basically, we're living in a time where we're experiencing the paper genocide that's been committed. We see it in our families as we go through our records, and it's just, I don't know. It's in me now. I can't let it go.
Well, no, that's interesting, because it's like, like you said before, you were taught one thing, and that's, and that wasn't it. And so you started, you heard something, and you said, wait a minute, something that started a little bit, sounded a little bit more, pliable, something that you thought would, wow, this might be the truth.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
This piece of information we're looking at right here, what is this?
That's the actual record of my great granddad. And that when I clicked on my grandmother and her father, this is what came up.
Okay, so remember, guys, now this is your grandmother's father.
Yes.
Okay, so you see how we just went back 2 generations just like that? But in looking at these records, you have to pay attention to what's being said, because even then they're trying to get rid of you, but you can tell they don't know how. So in this one, this is real interesting. Oops, let me bring it back up. So it says John Washington Sanders, but it says Native American in Pennsylvania. States with the most Native Americans in 1940, Arizona and New Mexico. Percentage of Native Americans, check this out, y'all. This is what I mean. You gotta pay attention to the words. Percentage of Native Americans in the U.S. in 1940, 0.03%. For real, cuz? You in a country, this letting you know that Native Americans aren't the American Indians.
That's right.
They're not the American Indians. If the Native Americans were American Indians, they would simply call themselves Americans.
Mhm.
But since we don't never think of that, we don't know, stuff just put over our head every single day. How do you come to a continent and the continent is only 0.3% of the Native Americans? I'll leave that for you guys to digest and figure out. But okay, so this is your great grandfather.
Yes.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about him. This is interesting too.
Well,
Happy food.
well, as you can see, he was born. Some records say 1891 to 1892. He was married in 1916. He also, and one thing that I noticed too, the people seem to have a lot of children. And I can count at least probably 3 or 4 wives that he probably had besides my grandmother. So, but anyway, what's really interesting is that it shows that he passed, it looks like, and he was buried in California. And the cool part is that by us not being out of touch and disconnected from the branch of our family, I was actually born when he went, when he left this earth, and stuff like that kind of stings you. And I've run into that more than once by being so disconnected. There's a relative that you could have known, that could have given you information, that could have taught you something, but well, they can do it in spirit now, but it would have been really nice to have been able to be with them and enjoy them.
So now this is funny. Now I'm a native California, so I can attest to this. So you see where it says when he died in 1964 at 72 in Winston, California. Now, I was born and raised in California my whole life, and I never heard of Winton, California. So, when we were discussing this, I was like, well, where is Winton, California? And this is how you pick up things on your family. Winton, California is in Central California. You have to remember that the Indians here were the Mexicans before the Mexicans came.
Mm-hmm.
People who did all the food and stuff up in Central California were the Indians.
Mm-hmm.
Then the Mexicans started coming. It was probably some Mexicans there too, because California, was Spanish before the Brits and the Germans and the Dutch and all of them came over and took up California through that, Louisiana Purchase. But Winton, California is in Central California, which is the breadbasket to most of the country. So I find it in those years, the 1950s and 60s and 70s, that a lot of people who were moving into Central California were the Indians coming from Louisiana and other places around the country. That's interesting.
Yes.
And it lets you know that we're the farmers of the land. Like we show you that $50 bill of the Indians down in Alabama. They look just like you. You pull up that $50 bill, you could swear, wow, that's my uncle.
Mm-hmm.
And so these people were the people who were the farmers of the earth, of America. This is more proof of it. This stuff is right in our face, but we will skip over this because somebody will tell us we're Hebrew Israelite, and we'll run with that and leave this for other people to come over, go through your records, take this information and use it for themselves.
That's right.
While your children are out playing something else, because we don't pass information down to our children. Why? Because most of the time, no information is passed down to us. Still no excuse. Okay, so here's another thing. This is real interesting, and you can help us with this, Doreen.
Yeah.
So you see where it says John Washington worked. He was a farm laborer, and he had a home farm.
Yes.
This is in what? The early part of the 1900s?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Was it 19? Is that 1910?
Yeah, that's 1910.
Mm-hmm.
19, and then, but also in 1910, it says he was a Ration Indian. Now, Doreen, from your research and your studies, did you ever find out what that meant?
Well, I have to say that I kind of looked at it, but I didn't. I guess I was getting. I think I had been kind of studying a lot, and I got kind of distracted, so I didn't really read deeply into it, to be quite honest.
Okay, so normally what was happening back then, remember, we were being moved around a lot. People, this was like 1910. Remember the people from Mississippi started going up to Chicago in the early 1900s. So, but when they moved these people against their will, they had to feed them and whatever, give them somewhere to stay, whatever. So they normally gave them these things called ration cards. If you talk to your uncles, your father, people who were in Vietnam or in the military in the 1960s, 70s, and 80s, they had these things called ration cards. And the ration cards, you can buy alcohol, cigarettes, blah, 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 for real cheap. So, I mean, when I saw that and I said it's not spelled like you would normally spell ration, but, you know, seeing the time that it was said or being the time that it was done, that's what it sounds like to me, Ration Indian, around that time. And I can't see the age. It looked like it says 13 or something.
Maybe 18. Probably.
Okay.
Is it maybe 18? Is it 18?
I can't see it. But you said the time he was born was 1881?
He was born 1892.
So 92, 102, 110. So yeah.
About 18, yeah.
About 18. So he was like, you know, given a ration card or something. Because maybe he had made up his mind what he wanted to do or whatever. But, you know, he was a Ration Indian. So that's interesting. So Doreen, when you find this type stuff, what does it say to you, or what does it mean to you?
Wow, it's for one thing, it's fascinating. You know what I'm saying? It's wow, it's fascinating, and then it also it confirms, you know, everything that basically what you've been saying and what a lot of our people in our group have been saying, the information they've been sharing, it just confirms everything.
Okay, this one. I wanted to save the best one for last. When you guys see this census, is going to blow you away. So let's go through this. Let's go through this document real quick. This is a discharge. I guess World War One.
It was World War One, and this is another thing I found attached to his record. So I know that he served in World War One. I think there's more than one person on here. But I noticed where his name is, and it looks like where everybody's name is, they put a line through white, and I guess they just wanted to just show that they were colored. That's what I'm thinking that means.
Oh, so now his ethnicity,
ethnicity, yeah.
Yes, has changed.
Yep.
So you see, this is like in 1818, 1819, the 1900s, the 1800s. So they were being called colored then.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So remember, what came after colored? Negro.
Yeah.
So when you have a lot of people today saying black this, black that, it's not that they're black. This was just what was taught to them who they were. You know, normally the people in the 60s, because remember, in the 60s, you went from Negro to black. So people who were going to school and was taught black back then, that's what they were taught, black. That's why they can't fathom thinking of anything else. Then a generation later, black changed to African American. Yeah. Same people, they're just designating you differently, so you will be cut off from the previous generations. That's the purpose for it. All the other people that you see, Greeks, they're not their ethnicity doesn't change. Spanish people ethnicity doesn't change. German people ethnicity doesn't change. Yours is the only one that changes. Why? And so we have to start asking those questions and start getting answers, and not just answers to tell you stuff just to get you to believe something. Because all of these beliefs and all this stuff that we get in school is meant to confuse us.
That's right.
Is there anything else on here, Doreen, you want to share? I just wanted to share this.
I think that's about everything. That's one of the things that I noticed, that, you know, where I saw his ethnicity they changed it. And I was like, wow. And then it also made me think about, because I run into that a lot in my records, you know, when I'm searching. Well, so basically they're hiding a whole lot of, you know, identity, you know, so there's no, you know, and then that concerns me, because it says, well, it seems like I'm cut off and I can't go any further. But they're definitely hiding who we are.
Oh yeah. That's without a doubt. And something else I want to share with the chat room is that this cat, he was honorably discharged. I guess that's March 1919. Okay. Mm-hmm. When you come down here, when you look at the surname, when you see the first name, it's a Christian name. Mm-hmm. What does that mean? Mm-hmm. What does that mean that it's a Christian name? That means whatever your name was before that, it's gone. Ooh. You took on the name John, because remember, we're not English, we're not British, though many of us pretend that we are. That's not us. That's the name they gave you. So when you see that movie Malcolm X, and Malcolm X said, "Hey, that's my Christian name. It's not my name that my family passed down to me. It's the name that you gave me." And many of us are walking around with that name now. So what you gonna do about it? So the next document, this right here, this one right here is the bomb right here. This one's cold. And this is what I'm saying. You know, a lot of times we get into these conversations and they get a little heated because, you know, I'll say something and people will get mad and want to bitch and whine. Explain what you're talking about. Because a lot of times what we know, we really don't know anything. Somebody else told us this and we go along with it. So check this out. And this is what I'm saying. We have no excuses. We have none for what's being done to us, because a lot of times we're the ones who's making it happen. Oh no, that's not it. That's not it. Oh man, here it is. So Doreen, please forgive me. Keep going. I had the piece, but I somehow lost it. But I'm pulling it up now. So go ahead.
Okay. Oh, that's all right. That's fine.
So what do your children think of all of this?
Oh, they were like, Oh, wow. They were just, I mean, they were excited, and and my daughter was getting ready to go out of town. She said, "Can you send me that?" And I said, "Sure." And I just reiterated to them, this lets you know, in other words, I was already letting them know that you're indigenous to this land. You're not a guest. This is your home.
Right.
And I'd always let them know that, well, I'm American Indian or Indigenous American, so please don't call me Black or African American, because I know better now.
Yeah, check this out. This is the cool. So this is why it's cool. I like to look at this more than I like to look at the names, because it's letting you know exactly what they're doing to you. So we're just going to go through we're not going to go through the whole list, but I just want you to see something, who we are and where we come from and why we're always confused. Okay, this is the 13th census of the United States. Okay, Doreen, lay it on us.
Okay, well, this is a document where he was actually in an Indian boarding school. And I think the name of the school, if I pronounce it correctly, is called Carlisle. And so I read a little bit up on it, and the pupils or the students were actually taken from their families and sent far away in order to be in these schools. That's one thing I did read upon as far as that's concerned.
You probably heard of it before if you ever seen a movie called Rabbit Proof Fences. What they did to the people in Australia, they took their children. They did the same thing here. They did the same thing in Canada. It happened to a lot of us. So a lot of us can't find our families because we were broken up.
That's right.
This is why we can't have the confusion. I know many of us, we relish in it. Life wouldn't even be worth living if we couldn't be confused. This is how a lot of the stuff, and you're about to see how a lot of stuff, how we're always confused. So this is the 13th century. This is the 13th census of the United States. Indian population.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when many of you are looking up your folks, you might want to go find these documents right here, because it won't be the same as the regular, like you just took the census this year. This is the census in 1910, but they had two censuses that we know of.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to show you something, and going through the list, just check out what they have you is. So this is the 13th census of the United States. And it lets you know they're in, here we go, right here. Carlisle Indian School in Cumberland, Pennsylvania.
Yep.
So think of Pennsylvania in 1910. These immigrants are starting to come over, and the Indians are starting to be dispersed by wars and all kind of stuff. Now, remember, this is 1910. They came and raided us back in the 1600s. So it lets you know it's in Cumberland, Pennsylvania. It's an Indian school. So if you saw, now this is her grandfather. If you saw a picture of Doreen, she would look like any other sister you see walking down the street in any city you choose. She's not a Native American, or what you call Native Americans. These aren't Native Americans. These are what you call African Americans today. Mm-hmm. So this tells you the location they're in, and this tells you their name. This tells you their relations. Now, they're not related to each other. They're not related to each other because, like Doreen said earlier, these kids were just taken to the schools.
Right.
I don't know if they were. Let me make this bigger. I don't know if they were, from the same place. No, well, you're about to see shortly that they weren't from the same place. So, okay, so Doreen, you can help me with this. So right here, it says personal description. Let's check and see what it says about personal description. Sex. What does that first one say?
Okay, so it looks like the first is male.
No, but sex. Okay, male. So it's male. Then
the color.
It says Indian. All the way down. Age 20, 15, 13.
Different ages.
They're all young kids.
Yep, that's right. Taken from homes.
Okay, and what's this right here?
I believe that's probably single. Is that? Let me see.
Now, these on the census, these right here are very important because it lets you know more about it gets more into the person in detail and lets you know where they're from. Now, the next one is the one that I was like, damn, this is right in our face, you guys. Mm-hmm. Nobody should be confused.
Right.
Nativity. Let's get into that because we seem to be totally confused about that. Nativity means where you are born. It's not an ethnicity. It's not a race. It's where you were born. Like those Native Americans that come over here and just told you to take down the Washington Redskins. See, that's what when you're not connected to this, anybody can come tell you anything. And that's what they do. That Washington Redskin helmet, those are not Native Americans. Those are the people who you see right here on this list.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Native, it's Christmas for many of y'all. Y'all know the story about the nativity scene. How dude marked his wife 90 miles south on a donkey to have a baby. Now, what brother gonna take his about to download wife and march her 90 miles south to have a baby? That's the nativity scene, right? That's where the word Native American. Jesus wasn't born, and Jesus wasn't indigenous to Bethlehem. Jesus was indigenous to Nazareth, right? I mean, it's a story, but I'm just going with the story, right? He wasn't indigenous to Bethlehem. He was native to Bethlehem. He was born there. That's all native means. But they have us saying the Native Americans are you, which they could be used as a buffer against you and everybody else coming over here. We don't get it, unfortunately. But what's interesting on this list is below it. Place of birth of each person and parent of each person enumerated. If born in the United States, give the state or the territory. If a foreign birth, give the country. Now, back over to the left, when it says color of the person, they're all Indian. But when you get over to the middle, they nativity, look at where all these people are from. Look at the places they're from. New Mexico, Idaho, South Dakota, New York, South Dakota, Montana, Minnesota, New York, Oklahoma, California, Minnesota, Montana, Wisconsin, Montana. It's all over the place. New Mexico, Louisiana. They're talking about you. These are your people. Remember, now these are newly formed states. These are the people didn't live in states. We didn't look at it like that. It didn't have borders on Colorado and Nevada. Huh? We didn't live like that. But if that's all you're taught, if that's all you know, that's why it's imperative that you go to your mothers, you go to your family, you go to aunts, you go to uncles. What was it like? And I could tell you a different story in 1980 to right now for the people who weren't born in 1980. So how do you manifest that? How do you make that happen? Here's a quick, simple way. If you went to high school, go to some of your teachers who were teaching you in high school. They know a lot of information. Them, libraries. I don't even know if they're open anymore. There's things that you can do to find information. Find people in the community who maybe was born in 1950. Find people who were born probably in the 1940s. They have a wealth of information and they can point you in certain directions. They may not know a lot, but they can point you in certain directions when finding your family. Okay, Doreen, want to keep going?
Oh, yes.
Okay, right here. Okay, so when we were talking about earlier, when we were talking about Ration Indians, you see right here, all it says is Ration Indians. Right here, what is this?
All of them.
We want to find this. Are they able to read and write English? Yes. Now you would talk to some people. If you would have met your grandmother, she probably was talking her native tongue, and you probably wouldn't have understood her. You was like, "Well, what's she saying?" Because I have a lot of people that say that. That's doing what you do. They find their parents and stuff, and they didn't. Where it says that those people speak English. A lot of times it'll say no. Because they didn't speak it. Okay, so right here, so this is how we got of Ration Indians. Now you see ration is spelled different here. This ration, it says trade or profession of or particular kind of work done by this person as a spinner, salesman, laborer, etc. Ration Indians. And like I said earlier, Ration Indians seem to me like they were being taken care of. They were given ration cards or anything. And then more over to the right is if they're able to read, could they write, and everything else. And it said yes, yes, yes. So you can see from right here that the Indians, they weren't stupid. They were very literate. Now, this is the part. Doreen loves this part, and I love it too, because it gives you some information on who these people were. And so a lot of times, wait, where was it, Doreen?
Okay, I think it's to the far.
Okay, here we go.
You're getting there. You're getting there.
Okay. Here we go.
And so my great granddad was listed on line 18. So if you match line 18 down here, I think if that column says race of this Indian, and it says Chitamacha. Okay, and then it goes into the parents, and the tribe of the parents is Chitamacha for both his father and mother.
So, and then you'll see over here to the farther right, it'll say full, half, full, 5, 6, 3/4, 1/8, 7/8. Come on, they couldn't. There's no way they could do that. They were just writing stuff down. Right. This is how we get confused. So, but what she was saying about Chitamacha, and I want to make this clear to everybody that's listening. I know a lot of times we say Choctaw and we say Apache and these big names that we always hear of. But it was also a lot of people, they didn't live within those tribes. They had their own family dynamics and their own where they live dynamics. You see these people, you heard of the Pueblos. That was in Colorado somewhere, Chitamacha, I don't know, Payate, Pocono, Cheyenne, Chippewa. So these are the name of all these people that.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
And you find state your people are from. because you know how they were, people were kind of like animals to them. So we
Oh,
had
you're breaking up, Carrie.
uh,
You're breaking up. I can't hear you.
speed. Okay, yeah.
No, it's still it's like bits and pieces.
In the chat, can you hear? Can you hear me? Am I breaking up to you in the chat? Okay, it seems like flamethrower. Can you hear me? Okay, so Doreen, why don't you go ahead with it?
Oh, okay. Well, oh, what else? Oh, like you were saying, they basically wrote down what they felt like, or as far as the, the degree of Indian. Uh, so, um, oh, there's a question. Is there anyone who helped with the research?
Is there anyone that helped you with your research?
No. As a matter of fact, the people that I started out with, some of them left me. They, they just, I felt kind of abandoned. But I know that this was so important. So, sometimes I'd take breaks and I'd get discouraged, but then I'd always get up and go back at it. And another thing is that once you get started, it's almost like you start to connect with they're not just somebody that's gone and dead and buried. You connect with them, and it's like they're with you. And there's been times where when my search got really hard, I would talk to them. I would let them know, we need to know this information. We need to know, where our people are from, you know. And pretty much every time I did that, I got some breakthrough or another, even if it was a small one. It was, something happened.
Yes, and Sagittarius Leo, you know what? You can get somebody to help you. There's people that you can pay to help you, but in talking to Doreen and letting her explain this, it seems like it's better if you do the work yourself. I think it's more fulfilling for the simple reason that Doreen just said. She hear her people talking to her.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I mean, you're connected to somebody, and I think if you have somebody else there with you, it'll kind of put a schism in that relationship that you have with those people. There's a song, and go check this out. It's a song by Gil Scott-Heron called "Don't Give Up."
Mm-hmm.
And if you listen to that song, Gil Scott-Heron is saying, y'all don't hear them calling your name. They're
Mm-hmm.
calling you. I know I can hear it.
That's right.
They're calling you.
That's
Because
right.
it's a movement on it's being stomped on. This information is being put out for a lot of people to enjoy, for a lot of people to search their folks, because you are the roots of America. And if
Mm-hmm.
you look
That's
at what's going on in America now, it's being overran by people who are not you. They're trying to take your land from you. Many of you are cool with it. Many of you are cool with it. You want it to happen. It's for everybody. This is for everybody. But when you take your ass over to India, they don't say that's yours.
That's
When you
right.
go over to Africa, they don't say that's yours. So this is a second reason why it's triply important for us to know who we are. Anything else, Doreen?
Well, I think, I know that we have to really take this seriously and really, really sincerely seek our ancestors. We have people that are trying to make us disappear, and they've been at it for a long time. And another thing, any of your documentations, records that you find, save them, print them, secure them, because see, our information is in the hands of a lot of the people that are trying to make us disappear, and we don't want to depend on them to hold that. This is something too precious. And so That I think that's about everything for me.
Well, I hope this little sharing of these little records gave you guys a little impetus to see. I mean, these are probably some records that you probably didn't even know about, because they're different censuses. They counted us different. You might want to go. That's why I say don't get too caught up in the state thing. That's when they're breaking you down and shutting you off from other parts of your family. They're drawing lines. You can't go over there. You're not an Alabama, you're a Mississippian, but
Yes.
your brothers and sisters. This is how they came and did us. So, Doreen, I want to give you a big high five for sharing this with us, for sharing
Thank you.
and giving us some of us that needed a little direction on where to look and where to begin to look. So I want to say thank you for that.
My pleasure.
Thank you. So this has been another edition of African Americans Ain't Africans. You want more information, email us at indigenous64@gmail.com. Doreen, if they want to contact you, give more questions and get more direction, could you give them an email or a number that you could share with?
Oh, yes. My email is RROG, the number 2, then ERS@MSN.com. So that's RROG2ERS@MSN.com.
Give it to me. Give it to me one more time so I can write it down.
Okay. RROG
G
G as in George, 2 ERS.
ROGG.
RROG
Uh-huh.
2
2
ERS
ERS
at MSN.com.
MSN.com. So there it is, you guys. So if you want to, write her and get some, probably she can give you a couple of leads or somewhere to look. If you are into your search, she'll be a good person to help you out.
Yes, I'll be glad to help.
See, that's what I'm saying. So that's what we do here at African Americans Ain't Africans, y'all. Please do not give up searching for your people. They out there, they calling you.
That's right.
And you know how they looking at us. So find your folks, find them documents, ask your family members. Also, you can get with people who were friends of the family, because they're still family. People who hung out with your family, you probably got, I got some of my grandmamas, and my grandmama been gone 20 years. I still talk to some of her friends. See?
That's beautiful.
These people know things that probably wasn't shared with nobody in the family. So find them and ask them. Again, I want to say thank you guys for joining us tonight. Hey, and we'll see you next time. Peace.
Thank you.